What are some of the biggest questions that junglers have when they look at comments and guides? They want to know how they can carry when they have a gold deficit. They want to know how to carry when their laners are losing. They want to know how to come back from behind and win games. They want to know how to always be able to win every single game they play through an aggressive yet passive farming, ganking, fighting, and total survivability game style. In other words, why should you be an aggressive omnivore jungler to win games in Season 12 and of course in the future? So if you want to be prepared for that, this entire video will hit everything you need to know for those particular facets. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you do enjoy and learn something. I'm going to go all out on the first part of this video with a lot of effects. Don't forget all my prime guides, GG guides are available for you at the link below. I currently have 6 champions out, the Bel'Veth, Volibear, Warwick, Viego, Echo, and Diana, with a lot more, all of them on the way. And for this video, yes, we have to use the new Reworked Udyr because while he's a little bit weaker early, his late game is absolutely monstrous. That means you can very easily be an aggressive jungler, however, it will have to be measured aggression. Now, measured aggression is a lot more difficult to implement, especially when you are behind the entirety of the game. That's right, they only really had the gold lead when they hit the Nexus and finally won. So we're going to look at how we can control the game no matter what with this particular playstyle. And as Lilia's team does a cheeky level 1 and gets that first blood against us for once, so we can't snowball from this, you have to understand when you want to be an omnivorous jungle and you actually want to be able to, get kills, KP, but still scale because that's what you're really good at, tempo, control, and so on, you have to know which lanes you want to gank with your sequencing. Do we go top to bottom or bottom to top? Do you know what the enemy jungler's clear is going to be like in terms of matching your speed? And can you control and fight them over crabs and such things? And how can we then disrupt their game plan? Because remember, yes, we must control game tempo in this phase, but at the same time, in a negative game state, in a deficit game like we're going to have here, you are looking necessarily just to stay as close to tempo as possible and maybe even have it just from the jungle position. Because if you have it from the jungle position and your lane is renting, the enemy jungler won't be able to suppress you, keep you down, and stop Udyr from controlling his own jungle and potentially poking her laners with his elbows. So we are against the Lilia. Now Lilia, yes, she's a farmer, she can AFK farm, she can sequence, but a lot of people don't realize that Lilia is a very good skirmisher. That's right, the deer with the weird sort of 1D thing slaps you around a little bit, spews you with some magic, and all of a sudden you're dead. But don't worry, the man with no neck and the ability to become whatever animal he wants is here to help. So we have a Lilia with the first blood, we have the Udyr doing his full sequence. This is absolutely standard. And yes, he does Raptors Krugs into the red to maintain that beautiful sequence of Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Krugs, such that they all respawn in a nice order when the buffs are not on the map. And of course, for the second rotation, that will be the case. Guess what? Our Sejuani is against the Chad-like Ornn, and Ornn shows her that fire is in fact greater than ice. Lilia is able to translate this to top scuttle control. Our Udyr is going to have a cheeky little look, and of course, we're behind this game, but we want to scale, we want to still be aggressive, so what we do? Back to base, go on straight down for the bottom scuttle, but the Lilia has forgone said scuttle and is instead going for a deep dive. This is a good but risky play for multiple reasons. We have to now leave the area. One, you should have damn well known that the Udyr started bot side from the leash and was going up. You should have too damn well known that because there's nothing to gank and he lost a crab, he was going to reset and come on down for the bottom scuttle as well as a second Gromp. And 2, you're underneath a tower really early against a champion that has a movement speed boost and will have already reset when you haven't. Not such a good trifecta, and of course everyone dies. Udyr gets a double kill and using this aggression dies trying to get the triple. This is okay. If we burn sums, if we get a double, we have now an advantage of gold over the enemy who only gets a few assists, although that can add up. It's more that you get more gold than them. But this is the thing about aggression. It's okay to die once or twice as long as you're not inting. If you're getting 2 or 3 kills for that one death, that's a decent KDA in the first 5 or 6 minutes. It allows you to stack your treasure hunter, get into futures market debt for crucial Noon Quivers and Kraken Slayers, Trinity Forces, whatever item your champion is building, and of course you can use that to dominate the map. And as Udyr respawns, he has his Sheen, he has his Swifties because you need to be able to move around the map. Remember, for this to work, for this game style to work, when you're in a deficit and you still have the ability to be everywhere and scale, you have to actually be able to be everywhere, and sometimes movement speed in the form of Swifties can really be useful on the champions that can maximize them. Obviously, it helps that they give slow resistance, and against your Ornn Qs and your Lilias, that's kinda useful. Now you see, the reason why I outlined the game plan at the start of this video is because the Lilia isn't doing that. The jungler who doesn't do this, and trust me, 99% of your games are not, will be the one that gets destroyed eventually. So Udyr does his second sequence. Obviously, we need to maintain CS/PM, CS per minute, and we're going to look for that side lane gank again. But Lilia, benefiting from spawning sooner, is able to actually do so first. Janna's already had enough of bottom lane and is roaming to the top side. This Chad-like beastly Orn, no it's not me, is actually able to, kill the Sejuani, kill the Janna, but Udyr shows up for some good old frail Yordian fistings. Remember, controlling your own jungle is step 1. As long as you're sequencing that, controlling that, and knowing where you want to put that pressure and show on the side waves, that's great, but you still have to be able to get everywhere and get the kills, get the cleanup. You cannot just exist in your own little hole. I know you dug it, I'm very proud of you, but you can't sit in it and hope the asteroid strike doesn't affect you. I mean, that is what the mammals did in the asteroid strike that killed the dinosaurs, and that's why we're here, but I don't think we should push that luck twice. Now, you would have noticed that wave, I animated it, that wasn't so good. That poor Sejuani's now gonna have to push that in a little bit, and will be susceptible to death once more, so make sure you understand your wave states a little bit. So as we leave base once more, our sequencing is going very, very well. We have controlled our own jungle, we've counter-ganked twice. It's exactly what you're looking to do in deficit gamings. And now you'd think with a Giga fed Kalista that the enemy Lilia would try and snowball this. Or as what most junglers will do is say, hey, they're winning, they don't need me, I can farm, right? Free objectives, free prio. If you don't abuse prio, you don't have prio effectively. And the Udyr, who is going to go for Triforce for auto attack gaming, but also will still max the RWE because rank 1 Q is insane and does proc the Sheen, shows up, shuts down, gets 2 kills for himself and his team, and now can leave the lane and reward himself with chems. Crucial principle here where I said at the beginning you need to maintain tempo as much as you can, or at least be close to the enemy jungler's tempo such that you can counter gank them. And once you've done that a few times, it should be much easier just to go to the bottom lane, get the gank off first before them, and then go back to your sequencing afterwards. Because remember, an omnivore jungler is one that is pretty strong early, or at least decent early, and then very good at farming and scaling off of kills. And while Udyr is technically a farming scaling jungler, I do kind of slide him in that gray zone between your sort of later game farmers and your omnivore Talia type champions. And now as we go for our sequence, they cannot sneak away the dragon. We don't want to do it again because our bot lane will need to shove and reset, and the enemy bot lane will still show up with a huge itemization advantage. I don't want to be caught with my shirt off dancing with the fire dragon, trying to absorb his spirit like I did all the other gods. So the goal once more, go to your raptors, Krugs, into your red, then look once more for the side lane, into the mid lane, but we definitely can snack a herald control. Now when you do this kind of stuff against the enemy jungler who's trying to force it, be a bit more aggressive, trying to farm a bit faster than you around winning lanes, you kind of disrupt their flow. And fortunately for us, the mid laner and Janna are able to collapse and kill her because she is now severely compromised with her pathing due to the Udyr's game plan. Regardless, that is the goal in this particular game. When you're playing from a deficit, you need monk mental to be a monk carry. And you do need to get at least one of those early objectives and don't let them start to ping pong them. When we look at more tank and herbivore style junglers, which I think I will, then I'll show you how you can play when you have to give up both the first dragon and the first herald. But for now, 5-1-0 plus a herald, we take that. And typically, and people ask this a lot in questions and coaching and boot camps, and they say, well, if the enemy bot lane really just gets super far ahead and takes that early tower 5 plates and they start to move around the map, if you've been doing everything this Udyr's been doing, and you could be Diana, you could be Lilia, you could be Zac, Ornn, it doesn't really matter what champion you're playing. Kayn can do this as well because you'd have your form. You look for them to move. They're gonna try and push the lane and snowball because that's what the Kalista wants as a win condition. Rotate. Use the fact that you have Triforce, Wardens, Mail, and Swifties to stick to her, to get the triple kill, to kill them. If you go back for your sequence now, or make the wrong move, they will snowball the game out of control. So you do have to be present, know out of base where you want to go, and don't be afraid to compromise your sequencing a little bit, but as you can see, we're going so quickly now, there's a lot of downtime between the Grump takes. Now for those of you who say, well, you know what, I'm not very strong at this moment, I can't really rotate and dominate a teamfight like an Udyr can. Well, the champion does have a 45% win rate. I do think he's very strong, and people aren't playing him correctly, but now put any other champion in this particular situation. If you are struggling to do what he just did in a PvP sense with the lead that he has, then I'd look at my early game and say, right, what did I do incorrectly that caused, a few deaths, to cause me to be counter-jungled? Why didn't I, take his camps when he was taking mine? Why didn't I gank bot lane when the enemy jungler was top lane? Because the only way to play when you're from behind at this level is to understand who has the gold and who has the gold in each team. Now obviously the whole enemy team is pretty strong, but the Ornn and Kalista specifically, however on your team it's pretty much just you. Janna exists, but so do most Jannas. What you do with this is huge. Now with everyone being dead, I would like to see a little bit of counter jungling. I think we could look to take those raptor camps. I think we could look to then push bottom lane down, but that then can carry risk with distorted back timers and of course not being in position for the next play. Now obviously we should have and could have maybe used the herald for a bit more pushage. The way he uses it is a little bit suboptimal, and now things get a little messy. Our sequencing is cut cut to try go top lane to force the issue there. We're forced to fall back to our Krugs. We know we go back to base, we go down to the bottom lane to push that as our Ahri is approaching. Now this should be something most of you identify with because a lot of comments are, but my team just goes ARAM, my team just goes mid lane. Well, if we've done everything so far appropriately, good sequencing, opportunistic ganks, pushing and holding waves, to at least a decent level, at least getting one of those objectives, we once more can go to the ARAM in the mid lane and do our business. Now, if you don't know how to teamfight with your champion, that's going to be a bit of an issue. I'm going to re-release and make updates of that series very soon. But for example, if you're an assassin who's in the same spot, have a look at my gameplay channel where I released a Kha'Zix video not too long ago with one of the best Kha'Zix teamfighters you can find in high elo. And he understands how to go into fights, maximizing his own damage output while avoiding crucial CC spells and not just diving in and dying and going, well, I'm an assassin, I can't carry. So watch that for that particular idea. But if you happen to be a Talia, an Udyr, a Diana, anything like that, a Hecarim of course next patch, these ARAM fights should be absolutely free for you in terms of holding the wave, looking for a pig, and cleaning up when they overcommit, because they will. They will start to get impatient, they recognize they have the lead, and they recognize that you as the Udyr are trying to 1v9. Kill conversion ratio once more. Please head to those dragons, push those waves out, get some counter jungling done, make sure you're hitting towers when you can. This is imperative. If you win these fights with this lead right now, and then you go back to farm, and you don't do any of these things, your lead means nothing. So I cannot stress that enough. And I've stressed a lot of things in this video, and in basically all my videos, but one of the biggest ones is, of course, please hit those towers. However, at this stage in the mid game in this particular game, you have to understand that you have just done everything that I wanted you to do. You've nullified their lead. The gold lead has crashed down. You are now in a prime position to carry the team as you would normally play doing a regular game with equal gold. However, if you are, yes, taking those objectives well, yes, pushing into counter jungling zones, please look at those wave states. Please don't be collapsed upon, and please do not give them a shutdown because it's absolutely huge. Look at the gold graph here after all of this death that the Udyr was a part of. It swung all the way back to the greatest point in the game, because from this, they got towers, they got shutdowns, they got minion waves, and this can compromise and cost you so many games, the throw moment. Is it your fault if you lose the game from this? No, but it is also a little bit your fault that you didn't win. Restraint and map awareness, as well as understanding your back timings, i.e. if I have 2k gold, I don't really want to fight now. We just had a great fight, I want to reset, spend it, and then do it again. Now at this stage, pushing out waves, holding waves, and keeping your sequencing going is tantamount to keeping your CSPM up and keeping your gold and experience infusion going. Very important when the rest of your team don't really match up whatsoever. Now alongside that, you're going to see a couple lost team fights where we die again, our team dies again. We're struggling to kind of battle around this gold deficit at the moment. Their teamfight is really, really good. They've got ornaments to scale. They do get the Baron, but when enemy teams get the Baron and they stay out a little bit longer than they should after taking it, that's usually a great time to leave base, sprint on over, get some shutdowns, and push a tower yourself, which of course can translate to other dragons. But when they do have the Baron and you're losing these fights and you always ask, how can I farm in the mid game? As long as you're sequencing your camps well, your laners aren't tracking that sequencing. So as long as you're actually taking those camps and not trying to trap anything, you should keep all of that available. Remember, you have 17 kills and 2 assists at this stage. You are the only thing that is keeping this team together, and you need that one true fight, that one window of opportunity, that one trigger pull, as I would have covered in the gameplay video I released last week. I will link that below as well. Trigger pulls for team fighting. That's all you're building up to. Yes, your team's behind, but you have a Samira, you yourself are really, really fed. If you have the right target selection, positioning, and disruption, you almost can win any single fight. And if you get one pig, you can chase down and make it 2 pigs. Don't overgreed here. Take the inhib tower, don't overpush with the respawn timers, track it, fall back to counter jungling, fall back to dragons, and this is the core tenet here. Yes, we have a lot of damage in the Trinity Force and what will eventually be Phantom Dancer. Not something I would necessarily recommend to most of you, but the idea of having 2 damage items is great, or at least a tank item in Demonics. But going something like a Force of Nature, a Deadman's, and a Gargoyles means you have enough damage to kill everyone, but also more than enough resistances through your itemization to not die. And that's why going more damage here is absolutely nonsensical. It's superfluous to your needs to win the game. If they cannot kill you, but you can kill them through your itemization of having damage and then a whole bunch of tanky stuff, why do you need to go full damage? You already killed them and now they cannot kill you, because not dying at this point is the most important. As you'll see, the fight happens again. They just cannot deal with the Udyr. Fall into a Baron, and from this fall into dragons, and then pushing out the game, and you'll see the full graph on your screen now. Really, that throw moment when we died cost us almost the entire game. It's only through about 3 or 4 or 5 team fights where we made picks and kind of pushed out the map a little bit that our Udyr was able to actually gain control of the game again to push to win. But that one throw was almost very, very dangerous. So the first 50 minutes of the game, that's all you really have to do to get back into it. and now it's on discipline to not overdo yourself. So thinking very severely about what the enemy jungler wants to do, how you want to make sure you're getting fed with ganking and then rewarding yourself, at least getting one of those objectives while they do a dragon. These things are absolutely huge for keeping your tempo as close as possible to the enemy jungler within touching distance, and even if your team are straight up minting and struggling, as long as you're playing the right omnivore jungler, you will always scale enough into that mid game to control fights and to control the game. If you want a bit more of a breakdown on the specific pathing principles, the dynamic pathing necessary to thrive in this situation, click the video in the box on the top right. And if you want to understand how to balance your farming and your ganking with a bit more of a strategic example in those pathings, click the video in the box in the bottom left.